let's just set the scene just a little bit more in detail. Obviously, 19th century, he's born, he lives through which events, where obviously we're going to get to the Civil War and slavery. Just set the scene a little bit, like maybe just a quick bio.
Of Walt Whitman?
Yes,
yeah. He was born in 1819. His father was what we call a Jacksonian Democrat, very pro-labor. They had Quaker roots in their family. They weren't, they didn't belong to a meeting and adhere to the Quaker way of life, but that was a huge influence on Walt Whitman. As a child, his parents brought him to hear Elias Hicks speak. He was a Quaker who created a new movement in Quaker, in the Quaker tradition that was more not as attached to the Bible, you could say, and more attached to the individual personal experience with God. And another big influence was Thomas Paine, who was obviously detached from the Bible as, people, fundamentalists might see it. He had a lot of literary influences because he read like crazy. His formal education ended, I think he was only 11 when he stopped going to like an actual school, but he read a lot. And the other thing about the 19th century is people were out, their houses were small, and you had people living on top of each other. I visited his house in Long Island where he was a child, and I just can't believe how many people lived in there. I would have driven, your average American just nuts, to live all piled up like that with the smoke, from the cook fires all over the, rooms and everything. And but people went out and went to lectures, they went to plays, they went to concerts, much more than people do now. We rely on electronics for our entertainment. So he was very educated in his way, although he never got an academic education, and that was another outsider thing that he felt that he wasn't part of the literary establishment. And this will come into play with the way some of American Jewish poets read Walt Whitman, because I know you wanted to, of course, you want to know about that. He lived in Brooklyn for a good part of his life. He lived in Manhattan at times. He was involved politically, but he ended up getting with the Democratic Party and the Tammany Hall Democrats in New York, but he got disillusioned with that and pretty much withdrew from politics altogether. In later life, he wasn't what we would consider an activist. He had his convictions, but he wasn't an activist by any means.